Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In our last lecture, I have started to introduce gas chromatography (GC). I gave you an introductory lecture about the basics regarding the use of the gas chromatography. I've told you in gas chromatography we use gas as a mobile phase. It could be a helium, it could be a nitrogen gas, and the stationary phase is packed inside a column. The column's inner layer are deposited with the stationary phase. And we inject our sample into the injector where it is heated like from 0 till 50 degree. The samples which are run on GC, they are supposed to be volatile, mean they should get converted into vapors in gaseous form, because the mobile phase, that's a gas, it can push the gaseous molecules through the column so that they could be detected in the detector. Yesterday I gave you very simplified explanation. I'm just trying to recall a bit. It is supposed to be a water pipe like column, hollow from the internal side. The diameter is supposed to be like 2 to 3 millimeter, and the length is supposed to be 1 to 3 meters, or maybe more than that. Different varieties of columns are available. GC column, the inner walls of the columns, they are lined up, they are deposited with the stationary phases, just like the way the stationary phase was pasted on the upper surface of the aluminium foil in TLC, in thin layer chromatography. Over here, the inner surface, the inner layer, inner surface of a column, it's a column, its inner surface is deposited with the stationary phase. What happens really when the sample moves into the column, the sample that we inject into the GC, it moves through the column. The molecules of the stationary phase on the surface and the molecules of the sample, they have sort of an interaction with each other. Same sort of interaction as the molecules undergo an interaction on the surface of the TLC. Over here the interaction happens inside the internal part of the column, and the molecules of the sample have interaction with the surface of the stationary phase, and if the interaction is a stronger one, the molecules movement through the column will be slower down. However, if the molecules of the sample have less interaction, they will move faster through the column, and they will elute first, they will move out of the column. As soon as they move out of the column, they enter into a detector. They enter into a detector where those molecules are detected by the detector. The detectors are of different types. How they detect the molecules is a different story. Their types is a different story. However, what is important, that any of the molecule which comes out of the column is detected by the molecule, and then that detector is connected with a computer, where the peaks are shown corresponding to the number of fractions, number of components present in the sample, and those peaks appear on chromatogram as per the time domain. Time is mentioned on the x-axis, 0 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. Time is there, time domain is there. The time at which the component 1 elutes from the column, that will be the retention time of A. the time, let's say 6 minutes, the peak number 2 appears on the computer, it will be the retention time of the fraction number 2, and same the peak number 3 will represent the retention time of the component number 3 if the mixture has 3 components, something like that. Then I've told you in the GC, as the column's length is like 1 to 3 meters or maybe more, those columns have been put into circular form, the column has been spiraled in a circular shape, because 3-4 meter length column can't be placed something like that, then the machine, the GC machine is supposed to be a pretty long in length, it can be like 4 or 5 meter long if the column is 1 to 3 meter is in length, However, in order to reduce the size of the machine, to make it compact, the same column has been put into a circular form. It has been put into wheels, and it has been put into a cabinet. Similarly, as I've told you, it is connected with the detector. It's a column, circular column. The column starts from inside the injector, where we inject our sample. Here we inject our sample, it's an injector, and from the injector the sample enters into the column, moves through the column, and then from the other side the sample moves out and then goes into the detector, moves into the detector. And as I've told you, the detector is connected with computer, which shows us the peaks, area of the peaks, the numbers of the peak, and so we can find out the number of components and about the quantity of the components. And yesterday we discussed that this injector is connected with our gas cylinders. Usually they are supposed to be helium or nitrogen gases. They actually send mobile phase into the column, Mobile phase is supposed to be some sort of a gas. So this is a very simplified diagram. So GC actually helps us to analyze those compounds, those samples which are volatile in nature, which can be converted into vapors as soon as they are injected into the injector, As they will be converted into the vapors, then they will be pushed by the gas to move through the column. If they are unable to convert into the vaporous form, into volatile form, then it will be hard for the mobile phase, that is gas, to push those non-volatile compounds through the column. What happens then? They can get stuck into the column, and finally the column will be blocked, means column will get contaminated if they are not volatile in nature. Though one has to be very cautious about analyzing sample on GC. The samples, the components of the sample, they are supposed to be the ones which are volatile in nature. So today I'm going to start GC for real-time analysis. Real-time analysis mean you can use GC for monitoring of progress of reaction. Reactions progress could be monitored by analyzing the samples on GC. Let's say once we mix two reactants, we have a flask here, we put in certain solvent and then we put in reactant A, then we put in reactant B, you know. At 0 time, time is 0, means we haven't started the stirring. Then we can take one of the samples from the reaction mixture and we can inject into the injector and we let the GC to run the analysis, you know, to run the sample. As we have an idea, there are only two components present in the reaction mixture at the moment. So A and B, as soon as we have injected and we turn on the GC and let the GC to analyze the sample, the both components A and B will move through the circular column, as I've given you a explanation that they move from one end to the other end. The one molecule which have more interactions with the walls of the column, they will leave behind, and the molecules which have less interaction, they will move out of the GC first. Let's say what will happen as soon as the first molecules, the component moves out of the column, we will have a peak there, and then there will be a time lapse, there will be few minutes, there will be no peak, okay. Then again there could be a peak number 2, then there will be again, there won't be any peak. In the beginning we have an idea, we have mixed two components, so we should have 2 peaks. If the GC shows us that we have 2 peaks in the beginning, it means 2 components, 2 peaks, no product formation at the moment, okay. So then we will put this flask on stirring. After a few hours, let's say 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours, we will take another sample from this reaction mixture and we will inject it again and we will run it on GC again and we'll see what happens now. Now let me do that in a real time way, analysis how it could be done, you know. We have mixed A and B and we expect that they are supposed to produce product C, you know. When the time is 0 minute, we will have, yes, we will have A, we will have B, there won't be any C, no C formation right in the beginning. How we came to know that? That once we have added A and B into the reaction, into the flask, we will take and we will run the sample on GC, let's say at 0 minute. As soon as the sample was injected into the GC, the sample started, the time on GC we started to note on the running time of the GC. After 1, let's say 2, 3, 4 minutes, the peak number 1 appears. Then 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say at 9 minute the peak number 2 appears. Then 10, 11, 12, after there we let it run till 15 minutes, So analysis time is 15 minutes. From 0 to 15 we see only two peaks, and both peaks are of the equivalent size and shape, mean equivalent area, mean both A and B are present in equal quantity. 1 mole of A and 1 mole of B almost are there. We have not observed any peak number 3. That is very obvious because as the reaction has just started, so it can't give any peak of the products, Let's say we have let the reaction run after 4 hours. This is a reaction time. Young men, you should not be confused with the minutes on the GC and the time over here. It is the reaction that is in the flask, and this time is the time for the GC analysis. Okay, so when we put in A and B right after when the time was 0 of the reaction, we took a sample and we run out in GC, and we let the GC to analyze for from 0 to 15 minutes. From 0 to 15 minutes. At 4 minutes we observed a peak, and at 9 minutes we observed a peak. So it's a 15 minutes time is the time for the analysis of the GC. Okay, then we let the reaction run, and after 4 hours we took another sample from the GC, we injected again into the injector, and we turn on GC again, and we let the GC to run for 15 minutes again. The analysis will start again. Let's say the reaction has started, analysis has started. And we see this sort of the chromatograph. Again, it has started from 0 minute. Again, we have another peak at 4, just like the above one. We have a peak at 4. We have a peak at, let's say, at 7 minutes, 4 minutes, and then a peak appeared at 9 minutes again. And again the analysis was run for 15 minutes. So no peak after the 9. So after 4 hours, when we injected the sample into the GC and observed the peaks, we observed 3 peaks. 2 peaks which are again same at the same position, 4 minute, 4 minute, 9 minute, 9 minute, means they are the peaks of the same starting materials. However, this is a new peak which appears at 7, It was absent over here. So means in the beginning only 2 reactants were there, 4 and 9 minutes, and after 4 hours, third peak appeared at 7 minutes, which was absent in the beginning. So means it is some sort of a product. It's some sort of a new peak, and they could be from A or B. This could be A or B, So peak at 4 could be or 9. They are supposed to be from the 2 reactants, and this is from the product. So after 4 hours, we came to know that the reaction is still running. Reactants are there, as well as product has been formed. From the peak area, the reactants peaks are higher than the product peak. Product peak is smaller. It means the reaction is slow. Less amount of product has been formed. Reactants are there. So we will let the reaction to run. Let's say it's still running. After 8 hours, we take another sample out of the flask and we inject it again into the GC and let the GC to run again for 15 minutes to complete its analysis, Let's say from 0 to 15 it is observable. Yes, it is. Again, what has happened, after 8 hours, the peaks has appeared again at 4 minutes, The peak at 7 minutes has raised to higher in area, and the peak at 9 has also reduced in volume, in area, in volume. It means now these reactant peaks which were present in the very first, they have reduced in volume, their area has been reduced, mean reactants are being consumed now. The product peak, which was absent in the very first chromatograph, appeared after 4 hours, and after 8 hours its area has been increased a lot. It means product is being formed more than the reactants are present now. So then we will came to know that okay, after 8 hours the reaction has proceeded a lot, but still reactants are there. So we can let the reaction run for 4 hours more. Then after 12 hours, I should have drawn at the same, then you can understand better. Let's say after 8 hours, there won't a very little at 4 minutes, very high peak at 7 minutes, and again a very little peak at 9 minutes. It means very little amounts of reactants are present at 4 and 9 minutes, but at 7 minutes the peak has increased to maximum height, maximum area, representing that maximum amount of the product has been formed, and the reactant has reduced to minimum numbers. So we can get the information that the reaction is about to complete low. Now we can let the reaction run for few more minutes, like 30 minutes or 1 hour. Then both of the reactions will disappear, only the reactant peak will be there. So this is how one can get the information that whether the reaction is still in progress, reactants are reacting with each other, product is being formed, or product has been formed in bit more amount, the reactants has reduced in lesser amount. After a few more hours, the reactants has been consumed to the maximum, and the product has been formed to its maximum. So this can be observed, this can be monitored by GC. So this is what I am trying to convey you guys. When your reaction is running, from the reaction mixture you can take just few microliters of the reaction mixture and you can inject into the GC. On GC the analysis time will be around 15 to 20 minutes. In 15 to 20 minutes you can see the number of peaks appearing. 2 peaks means only the reactants. If you have 2 reactants, appearance of 3rd peak will suggest that the product has been formed. So this is how the GC could help us to observe, to determine the progress of the reaction. So one could think about that which is A, which is B. You can't determine that just by running a mixture directly on this peak. For such purposes we need to have the standards as well. We need to run the standards to see whether this peak belongs to A or this peak belongs to A. When we have 2 peaks, we have 2 reactants. We will say that 2 peaks, 2 reactants. But we don't have idea whether it is A or it is A. It is B or it is B. We don't have an idea. Okay? We will came to know that what is A, what is B once we run the standards on the GC. Then we will have idea what is A, what is B. I can explain with one example to you so that you can comprehend it a bit better way. let's say we have this type of a colorant. This type of a colorant. It's a colorant, an azo colorant, due to the presence of an azo group used for the preparation of azo dyes. Let's say, and we reacted with this cyanuric chloride. We generate reactive dyes. Cyanuric chloride is supposed to be something like that. Something like that. That's supposed to be cyanuric chloride. Or I can write on this side, We have an idea that this hydroxyls O negative will act as a nucleophile, kicking this chloro out. There will happen a nucleophilic substitution reaction. So we will have a sort of corresponding product formation, which is supposed to be something like this one, It will be a reactive dye. It will be a reactive dye due to the formation of a bond between cyanuric chloride and the hydroxyl group of the coupling unit of the azo dye, azo colorant. So it will be a reactive dye. Let's say these two bodies are reacting with each other to produce this one. So we can call it A, we can call it B, we can call it C. We want to run the reaction between these two bodies and want to produce this one. So we'll take A, put into the flask, which carries a sort of a solvent, like a bit sort of a polar solvent is required, like one can say we are using methanol, So this is A is put into the flask, then we can put B into the flask. So A and B will be reacting with each other. When the time is 0, they both have been just put into the flask. 0, we can take one of the we can take sample from the mixture and we can inject on the GC, as A and B two reactant entities. As I've told you, the GC will analyze and will give us two peaks, 4 and 9. But A and B, which is one, which is A, which is B, from these two peaks we can't recognize that. How we will recognize that? It will be that we will take this compound in a separate analysis. This compound as a separate analysis as a standard, I mean to say, we will take cyanuric chloride, we will take the bottle of the cyanuric chloride, take few molecules, little amount of the cyanuric chloride, and will dissolve in a solvent. We'll take that cyanuric chloride and we'll inject into GC. Let the GC run only cyanuric chloride. Let's say, if cyanuric chloride, when we run it on GC alone, and its peak appear on 4, something like that. When we have run only cyanuric chloride, a peak appears on 4, then we will say that in these two peaks, the peak at 4 was due to cyanuric chloride. Okay. Similarly, we will take this molecule alone, will dissolve in a solvent, take that sample and run on GC. When this molecule alone run on GC and a peak appears at 9, then we will have this azo molecule appears at 9. So then we can say that the peak at 4 is due to this body and the peak at 9 is due to this body. So if we want to know the exact peaks at 4 and at 9, we need to run them separately as well. we actually take samples from the mixture where A and B both are present. When we run them on the GC, they both appear as two peaks. We don't have an idea which one is which. If we want to recognize whether this peak at 4 belongs to sonora chloride or it belongs to this body, then what we need to do, we need to take this compound in a separate flask, in a separate test tube. From there we should make a solution of that, take sample from there, run on GC. This is called standard, running of the standards. Standard means we have idea what is what. Then we can run the other standards as well. From those standards, when we run them separately one by one on GC, we will find their peaks at 4 and 9, then we can correlate with them. So whenever we run samples on GC about the reactions, we run separately these A and B before the start of the reaction. Then we take sample from the reaction mixture when the time of the reaction is 0, we let them run. Then we can identify their peaks, and then after 4 hours, 8 hours, the appearance and disappearance of peaks suggest whether the reaction has been completed or it is about to complete. This is how GC can help us to monitor the progress of the reaction. Here I would like to suggest one thing, that all reactions cannot be monitored by GC, because GC's columns are very sensitive. They get contaminated by those entities, those molecules which are non-volatile in nature. So when you are running the reactions between the molecules, you are using certain solvents there. So you can use to analyze those samples on GC where all the molecules or solvents involved in the reaction could be convertible to their gaseous form into their vaporous form. Then you can analyze those reactions on GC. If your reactants or your solvents have an issue of vaporization, then you can't run those reactions, you can't analyze those reactions on GC. So how one can know that whether his reactants are volatilable or not? That is very easy to understand. Whenever you want to use any reactants A and B, you need to look at its bottle. What is the boiling point? If its boiling point is low, like its boiling point is around 150, 120, 130, means that compound is easy to volatile. If some compounds boiling point is bit higher, then it means it won't get volatile as easily, so it will be hard to analyze on GC. I've told you, in case of GC, we increase temperature 150 to 300 degrees C, So at this very high temperature, this temperature is very much suitable for vaporizing almost many molecules, many type of reactants. However, if someone's boiling point is higher than this temperature, temperature range, then those samples will be hard to analyze on GC. So GC gas chromatography is a very effective technique for analyzing simple reaction mixtures. If you just want to know how many components are there in a mixture, if you want to check the purity of the mixture or a purity of a given compound, you can run that compound on GC. If you find a single peak, it means the given compound is a pure one because it's a single peak. If you find more than one peak, then mean the compound is impure. There are other fractions are also present. Or one can apply GC for the monitoring of the reaction on real-time basis at 0 time, at 4 hours, at 8 hours, at 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, something like. This is called real-time monitoring of the reaction. This can also be done by GC. However, just you need to know that your components, reactants, and the products are volatile in nature, then you can run on GC. And if they have non-volatile in nature, then certainly you need to go for HPLC rather than GC. So this is all about the application of GC for real-time analysis. I hope you got the idea how the GC works, how you can analyze simple compounds, or how you can analyze the running, you can monitor the running reactions, you can monitor the progress of the reaction. If you do have any question in your mind from related to today's topic, today's talk, you can contact me freely. You can put your question in comment area, or you can you can contact me through WhatsApp or email. I will try to respond to you at the earliest possible, inshallah. Thank you very much for your time and attention, please. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.